Brock Fletcher's our guest today, everybody. It's a reality of real estate. It's our 2025 kickoff for real estate. And that's what we like to do with the show. It's just getting you guys kind of primed in January for these. And moving forward, each year carries new complexities. And so, and again, what you were saying, when I wrote my notes, were we don't really want to have chaos in the real estate market because then it's just chaos. It's just like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Do you have any, and this is, I'm going to put you on the spot here, bro. Do you have any guesstimate what the bottom of the interest rate drop might be? Where will we level out? Is what I'm trying to say. Well, I don't, and here's where I'm coming from, Brock. I don't believe that we're going to ever see some of the rates that you and I saw, 8, 10 years ago at these, 2 and 3% mortgage.
Mhm.
So what do you think is a fair bottom? Just so people understand, it's like, oh, I want 3%. That's a pipe dream. That's not happening.
Yeah, I really think it's the that we're going to be probably no lower than 4.5%. But really 4.5, 5% is where we're probably going to gravitate to. And that's going to happen when the Fed gets the inflation rate to 2% or below. That's when you're going to see that occurring. And it's going to happen. It generally takes 4 years to correct high inflation. And so we're on pace to see that in 8 to 12 months. And the thing that people are not, and this is what we've never had before in one of these situations, we're only dealing with like enough inventory for about 21 days. There's only about 21-day supply. And because of all the homes that were not built between 2008 and 2012, we don't have the inventory. So anytime that we increase demand, the other thing that increases is real estate values. And real estate values are built to go up at about 4 to 5% a year. The problem that we've had the last 3, 4 years is they've been going up by minimum 7, 8% a year, which is not sustainable. So when you hear people talking about the unaffordability of homes, what they're really talking about is the compound value increases that are happening yearly. And whenever we lower interest rates, it speeds that up. It makes it go quicker. So, that's actually, we would actually be better off if rates, gosh, I hate to say it, but if they stayed high, if we want to temper value and keep values consistent in the 4 to 5 range, then interest rates between 6 and 8% are probably pretty appropriate. But nobody wants to hear that, but that's actually not a bad thing.
I, have you ever, in your wildest imaginations, could you have ever thought that the real estate market would go through such volatility as it has in the last 3, 4 years? Comment on that, would you please?
So the answer is definitely no. Um, there's been so many long-term trends that have been bucked by everything that's been experienced after COVID. And it's funny when we talk with clients and that are thinking about selling, and they share with us their experience, from, let's say, anytime before COVID. The truth of it is those experiences, they lend very little help to the markets of today, right? Whatever people understood about how things worked, uh, you know, 2000, 2010. I mean, nothing that you knew then is helpful for now, right? The game has totally changed in the last 5 years. So, and that's not to say that there aren't some translatable experiences, but for the most part, if you're a buyer or a seller and the nuggets of gold from back then, they're not that beneficial for now. Everything's changed. So
So give us a couple of stories where you could have like slam dunks here, and then you have. Well, we haven't done the story thing in a while, and you come across crazy things all the time, Brock. Things that you see that are going to probably continue to roll into 2025. A couple of the stories, some of the success stories that you've had, some of the people that you've really helped. Do you have something off the top of your head that you'd like to relate to the listeners? Anybody recently that you've helped?
Oh yeah, for sure. Matter of fact, one of them is a client I just helped, and I won't mention her name specifically just from a privacy standpoint, but I serve a lot of clients that are elderly, and her husband had passed. They were long time clients. Her husband passed, and she had to sell their their long-term marital home, if you will. She was at a point where she had to move to assisted living. She mentally she's well. Her health physically is still pretty good, but not able to maintain a home right anymore. And so she had to transition to an assisted living facility, and I had the pleasure of helping her sell her final piece of real estate. Very shrewd woman, good with money, everything. But what I'm getting at here is you know, over the course of the 3 or 4 months that I was helping her, I spent at least 1 to 2 hours a week with her at her assisted living facility and sharing stories and hearing about her life and even how she lost her dad at the age of like 6, 81 years ago and what. So the relationships with my clients and everybody's got their own very real story. And a lot of what I do is obviously helping people with the transaction or real estate need, but the part that I love the most is hearing people's stories and being able to help them achieve their goals and play some small part in being a small part of. In her particular case, she's got very few people left,
Right.
and to be able to be a friend. And last week, not last week, but a couple weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving, I went and spent about 3 hours with her and brought her a pumpkin pie, and we just sat. I mean, we the transaction was several months ago now. It was like midsummer, but we just sat and talked for 3 hours. And she said, Brock, this was a really tough year, since my husband passed. And she said, your friendship has meant the world to me. And
Oh.
that's important. I like that. I like that I can be that for somebody, right? And have it be authentic and very real.
One of the trends in 2025 is that renting is on the rise. All right. So you got renting going. I'm just going to throw this whole thing and let you take the rest of the segment here because this is big. First off, it's conditioning young people to understand, yes, they can get in the market and let you take it from there. Go ahead, Brock.
Sure. And you bring up a major concern. Here's the first thing. Rents have gone up a lot, right? So to rent in most good locations, like any relatively major city around in Michigan, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartment, you're going to be minimum $1,500 a month, but you might even be up to 2,000 a month. So if you can afford $1,500 to $2,000 a month, you can afford to buy a home. So that's the first thing. But the problem and the solution, as I see it, um, for young people is so really we're not helping our young people learn how to save money in high school. That's the first problem. We've got to correct that. Number two, um, we really have to mentor and coach our young people that they need to get a job that's going to pay a lot of money when they graduate. So just I'm going to be frank, life doesn't work on less than $50,000 a year anymore. It's just too expensive. So our children, there's many paths that lead to great jobs. So your kid doesn't want to go to college or they're not a long-term student, great. Skilled trades, plumbing, electrical, all that stuff is going to yield a job that once you're through apprenticeship and journey, you're going to make 6 figures. You're make 100 grand a year or more. College, uh, we probably need to quit encouraging our young people to get generalized degrees that aren't going to pay a good wage. So like for instance, Jenna's going to become a speech pathologist. That's pretty much guaranteed to start at about $95,000 a year. We have to educate our children that when they're selecting their colleges and when they're selecting their programs, that the goal's got to be, what does this job pay when I'm done? Um, uh, I mean, my dad or my great grandfather probably made 10 cents an hour, right? So like wages and the cost of housing is scalable over the years. It's always gone up. It's compounded over the years, but we have to realize that we have to educate our young people to get meaningful jobs that pay enough money to live. And if you do that, the problem with owning real estate will take care of itself, right? So, the other thing, and I'm not on a soapbox here, and I'm not being a boomer, if you will, but this whole notion that you don't have to work 5 or 6 or 7 days a week is not real, right? Like if you're gonna make it, you're gonna grind it for the next. If you're 20, you're gonna grind for 30 or 40 years. You're gonna have all the things in life you want, but this whole notion that I can do it part-time that's never been real, right? So we gotta educate young people. You gotta go to college or you gotta get a great job. You gotta make a lot of money. You can buy a house. You can have the American dream. The American dream has never been more alive than it is right now. But you're going to work every day. You're going to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week to have the life that you want. And that's just what it takes, right? You can't do it on 30 hours a week. I'm sorry. No, nobody makes it on 30 hours a week unless you've worked your butt off, became wealthy, and then you can tone it back if you want. But we're not educating our children and young people on how to be ultra successful. That's the problem.
I found this interesting, and it's like one of them, it says, is 2025 a good year to buy a house? Well, is it ever not a good year to buy a house? Because one of the interesting questions was, is it a good year to buy a house? And I'm thinking, it's isn't it always a good year to buy a house?
It is that I think that's a trick question. You know, the reason, I mean, if so, the only time that's not a good idea is if your personal financial situation dictates that you don't have the money to buy, right? Then it's bad. You don't want to put yourself at risk. That being said, real estate values go up 4 to 5% every single year, minimum. So if you have a need to buy and you have the financial ability to buy, if you wait, you're only causing yourself harm, essentially. So it's not a complicated answer. That's really the simple thing. Now, if you don't have the money, or if your financial situation is not stable, then you need to wait until you're ready, right? Don't get overextended and make a mistake. Wait till you're financially ready.
What's a minimum? What's a minimum down for a first time buyer? Say you got these young people. We've been talking about young people for 2025, 2026, going through the 20s. What's a minimum percentage wise down that you think is a safe? Because isn't there deals for first time buyers out there and they can get some help with financing? So, what's the strategy?
Yeah. So for the most part, if you have 3%, 3 to 3.5% saved for a down payment of the total purchase price, you're in good shape. Realistically, you should have another 3% saved towards closing costs. But if you have 6%, 6.5 to 6% of the total purchase price saved, and you can easily afford that monthly payment, based on that, you're probably safe to buy. There are some programs that include down payment assistance and things of that nature. But there's typically like income limits, like you can't make more than a certain amount of money. So every area has some little things. For the most part, if you've got 6% to 7% saved and you've got good credit and you've got stable income, then you're a good candidate for a house purchase.
What is carrying costs? Why do people want to make sure that they minimize that? Because I just asked you about first time buyers and you said 3.5%, which I think is very, very doable. What about carrying costs?
Well, so here's how I think about carrying costs. So like the way I look at life is it costs a certain amount of money to have a place to lay your head every night, right? You've got the payment, you've got the utility costs, you've got cable, you've got internet, you've got whatever you're spending to like live, right? And my general school of thought is I want to minimize that cost into something that's very easily attainable based on my income level, right? I'm not trying to live all the way up to the top of my means. So it's just like a car. Like I look at driving a car as like, what is the minimum amount I have to spend on an automobile to have a be good for my life, right? I don't need a $100,000 car, right? Fundamentally speaking, it doesn't drastically change the enjoyment of driving to and from work, right? So I look at life that way. Now, in terms of if you own multiple residences, each residence along with utilities carries a certain amount of money that it costs to own and have that property. And especially as you get older in life, and especially if you've achieved a certain amount of financial status, let's say you got a primary home and then a vacation home and then maybe another home, it can be really expensive and it can be very time consuming to maintain those properties.
And then me a 30-second takeaway, please.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give you something to think about. Um, there's no magic bullet to solving the issue of interest rates and supply. If you have a need to move, death, divorce, new job, new career, whatever, if your life circumstances dictate you need to move, do it in 2025.
How many times can I say how much I like Brock Fletcher? Guy's amazing. He's a great friend. He's a great sponsor, and he's loyal to the bone. I mean, he's the kind of guy who says, "Go ahead and raise my rates for his sponsorship," and I said, "No, I'm not doing it." Even though we could use the extra revenue to help pay our people, can't do it because sometimes in life you got to make choices, and I make this choice, and I've decided myself that you know what, we're good. You've been loyal to me for years, and that's the way it works. And that's what this show's all about: loyalty and people. I'm Papa Tom. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much for doing everything you do. Holidays are coming, and maybe you're going to pick up this podcast in 2 years, and the holidays will be down the road. Anyways, have a great day. Peace out. Love y'all. Thank you so much.